All right, so are you ready to put on those detective hats? Okay,
Always.
good. Because today we're doing things a little differently, going deep on a single source,
Ooh, intriguing. What's the source?
a real estate listing. But not just any listing. This one is fascinating.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on me.
We are talking luxury, Miami luxury to be exact.
Miami, huh? That sounds promising already.
We're talking a condo at the Grove at Grand Bay development.
Okay, color me intrigued. I'm familiar with that development. It screams high end.
Yeah.
What's the catch?
Well, the catch is the price tag. A cool $25,000 per month.
Wow, $25,000 a month. That's definitely in a league of its own.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. What kind of story is this listing telling us? Who is this mysterious tenant they're looking for?
You're right. That price point alone speaks volumes. We're not talking about your average renter here.
Okay, so let's break it down. The listing starts with the basics. 3 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, and a den that could be used as staff quarters.
Staff quarters. Not your typical condo feature.
Right. All of this in a space spanning over 1,900 square feet. What are your initial thoughts on that, especially the staff quarters bit?
It definitely paints a picture of a certain lifestyle. I mean, having dedicated staff quarters suggests they are expecting someone who is accustomed to, well, having staff.
Yeah, like a live-in chef or a full-time housekeeper. That's not something you see every day, especially in a condo setting.
It's definitely a statement. So, right from the get-go, they're setting the tone. This isn't just about having a nice place to live. It's about a certain level of service and, I'd say, exclusivity.
And that's further emphasized by another detail. It's being offered fully furnished and professionally decorated.
Ah, so it's turnkey luxury. You just bring your suitcase and move right in.
Exactly. They're not just providing furniture, they are selling a complete and carefully curated experience.
It's all about that effortless move in and start living the dream kind of feel.
And speaking of dreams, get this. They describe the kitchen as, and I quote, an incredible open kitchen with a gas range for all chefs and foodies out there.
Ooh, a gas range. Now that's a detail that gets serious cooks excited.
Right. You know you're dealing with a serious kitchen when they specify the type of range.
Absolutely. And there's a reason for that. Gas ranges offer precise temperature control that many professional chefs and serious home cooks just can't live without. It's definitely a selling point for those who are passionate about cooking.
So they are really going after the culinary enthusiast with that description.
Totally. And then there's the mention of high-end finishes, including European doors, automated lighting, and blinds.
Yeah. What is it about those features that makes them so high-end?
Well, these details, while they might seem small, signal an attention to detail and a level of quality that appeals to a certain buyer. These aren't just functional elements, they are design statements.
I see. It's like they elevate the entire space beyond just the basics.
Right. When we talk about high-end finishes, it includes everything. From the cabinet hardware to the type of molding used, it all contributes to the overall feel. And European doors often have different construction techniques, heavier, more solid, with those unique design elements. It's all about the craftsmanship.
So it's about those subtle touches that create a sense of luxury that goes beyond just, having a nice countertop or something.
Precisely. And then you can't forget the spectacular stone floors throughout.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds luxurious. But what kind of stone are we talking about here? Marble? Granite? Or something even more exotic?
Hard to say for certain without seeing it, but you hit the nail on the head. Those are all very popular for luxury properties. Each has unique qualities and a different price point. It's another way of subtly signaling a level of, well, opulence, I guess you could say.
But let's be honest, the real showstopper here has got to be the view. It's a 700 square foot terrace overlooking the bay.
That's a pretty significant outdoor space, especially for a condo. You don't see that every day. Waking up to that every morning, that's a dream.
I know. Imagine that morning coffee or evening cocktails with that vista. It's breathtaking. And it really plays into that indoor-outdoor lifestyle that's so desirable, especially in a place like Miami.
Absolutely. And it's not just the private terrace. The listing also mentions shared amenities. A spa, a relaxing pool, common areas.
It's like they're creating a resort-like experience right within the building. What do you mean with that?
Those shared spaces are a huge draw for luxury condo living. It's about fostering a sense of community, providing a lifestyle that feels exclusive and, of course, super convenient.
Now, this condo isn't just about luxurious interiors. It's also about location. Coconut Grove. The listing says it's walking distance from restaurants.
Ah, Coconut Grove, a great area. It's known for its lush greenery, charming boutiques, and a vibrant dining scene for sure.
So that walking distance from restaurants line isn't just a throwaway, it's a real selling point, right?
Yeah.
It highlights that walkable, connected lifestyle that Coconut Grove offers.
For sure. It speaks to the convenience and walkability. It's saying you are in the heart of it all.
But there's something in this listing that caught my eye, and I found it, well, rather curious.
Oh, I'm curious now too. What is it?
Remember how they mentioned a den that could be used as staff quarters?
Yeah, it's not something you see every day.
Right. And it got me thinking about who they're trying to attract with this place. It's like they are looking for someone who's not only used to a certain level of luxury, but also used to having live-in help. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you're spot on. It implies a lifestyle that includes, well, domestic staff, whether that's a full-time housekeeper or a personal chef, maybe even a nanny. It definitely adds another layer to the picture we're building here.
It makes you wonder what else we can glean about the type of tenant this owner has in mind.
Well, let's think about this for a second. They're offering this condo fully furnished and professionally decorated. What does that tell you?
It screams convenience, doesn't it? It suggests they want someone who values a turnkey solution, someone who wants to move right in without the hassle of decorating or buying furniture.
Precisely. Maybe someone who doesn't plan to stay long term, someone relocating for work, or even looking for a luxurious seasonal rental. It's all about that flexibility.
So they're seeking a lifestyle that's both luxurious and, well, kind of on the go.
I think that's a really good point. This ties into a broader trend we're seeing in the luxury real estate market. More people are choosing to rent high-end properties rather than buying.
Oh, that's interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, there are a few factors at play. You have the increase in global mobility, the desire for flexibility, and for some high net worth individuals, there's also a shift in priorities, prioritizing experiences over the more traditional sense of home ownership.
So instead of being tied down to a mortgage and all the responsibilities of homeownership, they're choosing to invest in experiences and the freedom that comes with renting something luxurious.
Exactly. This condo seems perfectly positioned to appeal to that mindset. But there's another detail in this listing that I find curious, wouldn't you say?
Oh, you mean the no pets allowed policy? That definitely stood out to me as well.
Yeah. It seems like a small thing, but it could be very telling, don't you think?
What do you think it says about the building or the kind of community they're trying to create?
Well, it could indicate a desire to maintain a certain aesthetic, a sophisticated, maybe even a more adult-oriented environment. It makes you think, right?
Right. Or it could reflect the preferences of the current residents. Maybe predominantly older residents or those without young children. It's definitely something a potential tenant would want to consider.
It goes to show that there's a lot more to a listing like this than meets the eye. Sometimes what's not said is just as revealing as what is.
It's like we're piecing together a puzzle here. Each detail offers another clue, and it's our job to see the bigger picture.
That's what makes this deep dive so fun. We're going beyond the surface, trying to understand the story behind this luxury listing.
And speaking of the bigger picture, I can't help but wonder about Coconut Grove itself. They say walking distance to restaurants, but what kind of dining scene are we really talking about here?
It's a great question, because it highlights the importance of going beyond the listing itself. Fine dining, casual, a mix of both. Knowing the types of restaurants shapes our understanding of the neighborhood.
And that vibe plays a big role in who lives there. Even with a detailed listing, there's always more to learn.
It shows how seemingly straightforward information can be a springboard for deeper exploration. And that's what makes this so interesting. We've only just scratched the surface, haven't we?
We have. But let's take a pause here, folks, and delve deeper into the nuances of this listing in our next segment. There's still so much to unpack and analyze.
It's amazing, isn't it, how much thought goes into crafting a listing like this? It's a story, really, designed to draw in a very specific type of buyer.
You're right. It's like they're selling a lifestyle, not just a condo.
Exactly. And if we understand the clues, we can kind of get a glimpse into that lifestyle and who it's meant for.
So let's put our detective hats back on. Try to piece together who this tenant might be. What have we figured out so far?
Well, based on everything we've talked about, we're looking at someone who definitely values luxury, convenience too, and exclusivity.
Someone who appreciates those high-end finishes, the top-of-the-line appliances, that indoor-outdoor flow.
Someone with a busy life, probably, looking for that easy, move-in-ready solution, so they can just step right into that Miami lifestyle. No hassle.
Right, right. And they're probably used to a certain level of service, right? Remember those staff quarters?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they travel a lot for work
Uh-huh.
or have a demanding career that requires, well, help at home.
Plus, don't forget the no pets rule.
Ah, good point. That tells us they might be looking for something a bit more, how do you say, tranquil, maybe even more adult-oriented.
Definitely. It suggests they value a certain kind of atmosphere, a community that fits their lifestyle.
It's all starting to come together, isn't it? We're painting a picture of someone who enjoys the finer things and
Yeah.
is willing to pay for them.
Someone who values flexibility and freedom. That whole renting versus owning thing.
Absolutely. Remember we talked about that being a trend, especially among people who, have the means.
That shift in priorities.
Hmm.
Experiences over the traditional idea of owning a home.
Exactly. But, it makes you think, doesn't it? Wanting that freedom, but also having domestic staff. It's kind of ironic.
That's a really good observation. It's complex, this idea of modern luxury, wanting simplicity on one hand, but still relying on that level of service.
Right, right. It raises questions about what true freedom really means in this context. But let's switch gears for a minute. Let's talk about Coconut Grove. What does it offer that would attract this type of person?
Good point. Location is everything, right?
Absolutely. So Coconut Grove, it has a very unique feel, vibrant, walkable. It's got history, nature, those modern amenities, known for the lush greenery, the charming boutiques, galleries, and of course, as the listing says, lots of restaurants.
I'm so curious about that, actually. The restaurants, they say walking distance, but what's the scene really like? Fine dining, more casual places, or a mix of everything?
You're right. The type of dining scene really shapes a neighborhood and attracts certain people. Think
Yeah.
about it. A place with mostly high-end restaurants, that might appeal to someone looking for a more, I don't know, sophisticated experience.
Yeah. Whereas a mix of places, casual and fancy, would bring in a wider range of people.
Right. That's why we have to go beyond just the listing. The details matter.
To get the full story, it's not just about what's inside the condo, it's about the whole lifestyle around it.
Exactly. Okay, so imagine for a second you're this potential tenant. What does your day look like in this Coconut Grove condo?
Ooh, fun. Okay, let's...
You wake up, maybe do some yoga on that huge terrace overlooking the bay, then head to the amazing kitchen for a gourmet breakfast, made by your personal chef, of course.
Naturally. Then maybe a spa treatment downstairs.
Mm.
Or a relaxing swim in the pool.
Yeah,
This is the life.
right. In the afternoon, you stroll through Coconut Grove, check out the boutiques, the art galleries.
And as the sun sets, you're on your terrace with a cocktail, taking in those incredible views. Then dinner at one of the amazing restaurants nearby.
It sounds pretty amazing, right? Luxurious and carefree. But it does make you wonder, at what cost?
$25,000 a month to be exact. That's a lot to shell out for this lifestyle.
It makes you think about who can afford this
Mm.
and what it says about, well, society in general.
The gap between those who have this kind of money and those who don't, that's a whole other deep dive right there.
You're right. It's a lot to think about. But it's amazing how one little real estate listing can spark such big questions. It reveals so much about us, our values, what we want, the complexities of life today.
It's a good reminder. This is just one listing, one tiny glimpse into a certain part of society.
Exactly. There are so many other stories out there, each with its own unique perspective.
Okay, so with that in mind, let's focus on something else. What does this deep dive tell us about real estate marketing and how to appeal to certain buyers?
Oh, this listing. It's like a masterclass in targeted marketing. Seriously. Every single detail, the chef's kitchen, the fancy finishes, the resort-like feel, it's all carefully chosen to create a very specific image, to trigger a specific emotion.
They're selling a dream, a lifestyle that fits with certain aspirations.
Right. They understand their audience, what they value, what they want, even what they're afraid of.
It's fascinating how they use language to appeal to both our logic and emotions, isn't it?
Absolutely. Think about it. Spectacular stone floors, European doors, that's all about quality and sophistication. But then they describe breathtaking bay views, and suddenly you feel a sense of peace, escape.
It's like they're painting a picture with words, taking you right into that lifestyle.
And they do it so subtly, not pushy at all, letting the details speak for themselves, trusting that the right person will get it, will connect with the story they're telling.
It's a really smart strategy. Create that sense of wanting something, that feeling of being special, and you've hooked the buyer. But is there a bit of manipulation in this kind of marketing, wouldn't you say?
That's a good point. It makes you think about the ethics of it all. How much persuasion is okay? If the buyer ends up happy, is it still manipulation? Or is it just about presenting things in a way that fits their needs and wants?
That's a tough question. We could probably do a whole deep dive on that. But for now, let's just say this listing does a great job of using those classic luxury marketing tricks to create a really compelling and aspirational story.
Totally. And by understanding these tactics, we become better consumers, more aware of how marketing shapes our choices and what we think.
And in the end, that helps us make better decisions about what we really value and what truly fits our lives. But we've covered a lot here. Let's take another pause and wrap up this deep dive in the next segment. We'll revisit all the key points and leave you with some final food for thought.
Wow, we really went deep on that Miami condo, didn't we? It's amazing how much one listing can tell us about, well, everything. Not just real estate, but, like what people value these days.
Yeah, it's like a tiny window into this whole world of luxury and affordability and what home even means anymore. So before we wrap up, let's think about our listeners. What would you say are the big takeaways from this whole deep dive? Things they should remember?
That's a good question. I think the biggest one is the power of just paying attention and thinking critically. We're talking about a simple real estate listing, but look how much we uncovered just by looking closely, noticing the detail.
It's like we were peeling back layers, right?
Yeah.
Uncovering all these hidden meanings and strategies.
Exactly. And the other takeaway, I think, is the importance of knowing your audience. Whoever made this listing, they get it. They know exactly who they're trying to reach and how to speak to them.
Speaking their language,
Yeah.
knowing what they dream of, and painting that picture perfectly. But this wasn't just about marketing, was it?
Oh, definitely not. It made us think about bigger things, too, like the rise of these super fancy rentals and how rich people are shifting their priorities. It shows us how the idea of home is changing all over the world.
And it raises questions like, what does it mean that so many wealthy people choose to rent instead of own? What does that say about us, our values, our stuff?
That's a great question. It makes you realize that even personal choices, like where we live, are tied to these bigger forces. It's all connected.
Okay, so as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you want listeners to walk away with? Something they'll keep thinking about.
Don't underestimate any piece of information, no matter how small. A listing, a news story, even just a conversation. There's always something deeper there, if you're willing to dig a little and ask the right questions.
That's such a good point. It's about being curious, thinking for yourself, looking beyond the surface to figure out what's really going on. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into this Miami condo.
It was a wild ride, wasn't it? So many twists and turns.
It was. But remember, folks, this is just the beginning. There are so many more deep dives out there waiting for us, so keep those detective hats ready. Join us next time as we uncover another hidden story.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for joining us.